Even though Christopher Nolan was the one that brought in Zack Snyder to WB to start the DCEU, we see that Christopher Nolan was against Superman snapping Zod's neck in Man of Steel. What's going on, everybody? Hit that subscribe and let's get into it. Don't forget, show your support and buy my comic book, Rebel Defenders. Thank you for the support. Now, check this out. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I want to give my feelings and thoughts on this. So, some of you are gonna probably agree, and some of you are not, but it's okay. I just want to say how it has to be said. Look, yes, we already know that Christopher Nolan, thanks to him, he was the one that brought in Zack Snyder. And of course, WB got the amazing Snyderverse with the kickoff with Man of Steel. Now, we already know, and if you've already seen the movie, of course, you know, I've lost count how many times I've seen it. There's a scene there that we already know. And if you haven't seen it, I don't know what to tell you. But Superman snaps the neck of Zod. And I'm going to be honest with you, even though a lot of people were probably against that, until this day, 12 years later, at the time of this recording, we're still talking about Man of Steel from Zack Snyder as if it just came out within the past 3 years. It's incredible. But when we're focusing and looking at what Zack Snyder had created with Henry Cavill, Man of Steel, and then with what we got with Batman versus Superman, I loved it. I enjoyed it, and I prefer that, honestly. A lot of people will sit here and tell you, oh, but it was too dark, it was too brute, it was too this, and those are just sensitive type of fans, honestly. You know, what Zack Snyder created was way ahead of its time, and, you know, it was just cinema. It was peak, and I want more of that. And just like that, a lot of people still want more of that, you know? Seeing what Henry Cavill brought with Superman, sure, it's not for everybody. Well, what he brought under the leadership of Zack Snyder, it was amazing. I enjoyed it. And, you know, seeing a different take on Superman made me a fan of Superman, because I was never a fan of Superman just because, you know, he was so corny and stuff like that. But what Zack brought with this character, showing us how powerful Superman is, you know, and doing what was necessary. I mean, let's be real. These are heroes that are fighting, right? And they're going up against these villains and these big threats and whatever it is that's going on in, you know, the world and universe of whatever they're going in. And you're going to have Superman facing off Zod, knowing that this is a big threat against humanity, against, you know, everything pretty much, you know. So Superman did what he had to do. And he just took out Zod and he snapped a little neck. That's it, you know. I don't know what's the big deal. I don't know why people blow things out of proportion and make things a little bit much more worse than what they are, you know? And it just shows you that we're fans, we care about it. That's why we talk about it and stuff like that. But as a fan, I enjoyed that, you know? Because it's showing to us, the audience, and to me personally, hey, look, this hero has to do what's necessary at all costs. And he's not going to sit around and put up with all this nonsense anymore, you know? So he has to do what's necessary. And in this situation, you know, Superman literally had to snap the neck of Zod to take him out. And if he didn't do that, we already know that Zod would continue to do, you know, all that bad stuff that he was doing and how evil and stuff like that he was and things. And I like what Zack did with that, just because, you know, it gave us more of a realistic Superman. You know, the version that Zack gave us, it's as if it's a modern Superman. And look at that. 12 years later, we're still talking about Man of Steel again, as if it was something that just released recently, you know? And it's insane, but it's beautiful at the same time, because this was ahead of its time and it's aging like fine wine. This is why you see a lot of fans that are still talking about it. We still want Man of Steel 2. Things were on the path to greatness with Black Adam, and at the end we saw Henry Cavill return after so many years, and things were going to pick up and continue where they left off. But, you know, unfortunately, things changed. The studio wanted to go a different route, and they are where they are right now with James Gunn, and it's not working, let's be honest. And you have more fans on polls all over that still pick and want Henry Cavill as Superman. What he gave us, along with what Zack Snyder gave us in the Snyderverse, it's amazing. And what we saw in the Snyder Cut, at the epilogue scene where we see that Superman is fully under the control of Darkseid, I want to see what happens with that. I want to see where Zack is taking us with this story and where things are going to end up within Justice League 2 and 3. And, it's just setting the foundation for what's to come within, that Nightmare timeline. And I want to see how things go all out. I don't want to see a happy, cheerful, bright Superman. No, we're in the middle of a war in this cinematic universe. Why would I want that? I don't want a cheesy Superman, a corny, cracking jokes type of character. No, I want to see how these characters are being affected, how things are affecting everything around in the surroundings. And that's what Zack brought to the table with the DCEU and with Henry Cavill within the Snyderverse. Some people are going to cry and complain and say, it's too dark, it's too boo, it's not my Superman. You know what? James Gunn's clown Superman, that's not my Superman. And it never will be, because that's a joke. What Zack Snyder gave us was quality, was cinema, was entertaining, and it was ahead of its time. I want more, we want more, and most of all, we want Henry Cavill back as Superman. What are your thoughts? Hit that subscribe, show your support, buy my comic book, Rebel Defenders, and until next time.